Nathan sat alone at the corner table of the Riverside Cafe. Copyright, adjusting his watch for the third time. At 32, he had reluctantly agreed to this blind date just to stop his sister's constant nagging. She'd been telling him for months to get out more, to meet someone, to stop marrying his work. On paper, he looked like a success story, a polished corporate lawyer, dark hair neatly styled, charcoal suit pressed to perfection, his late father's gold watch catching the warm light. But under that surface, he felt a broken bar hollow. The Cafe Copyright had the kind of glow that made everyone look softer, kinder. Exposed brick walls, soft jazz in the background, and the comforting hum of conversation. Nathan had shown up 15 minutes early. Punctuality was a habit he couldn't shake. He was scrolling through emails when a voice called his name. He looked up, and the world seemed to quiet. She was beautiful, a mid-20s, blonde hair that shimmered in the light, dressed simply in a cream blouse that somehow looked elegant. But it was her eyes that caught him, searching, steady, and strangely familiar. "Hi, you must be Claire," he said, standing quickly and offering his hand. She smiled politely, shaking it with quiet confidence. "Thank you for agreeing to this. I know blind dates aren't everyone's favorite." "It's fine, my sister talks about you a lot," he replied, trying to sound casual. They sat. The server brought coffee, and the usual first date small talk began. A surface level, safe. Claire asked about his work. He gave his well-rehearsed version of what he did, making it sound far more interesting than it usually was. She listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. "And you?" he asked. "My sister said you work in education." "I'm a high school English teacher," she said with quiet pride. "It doesn't pay much, but it's worth it. Watching students find books that change how they see the world. That's a broken bar special." "That sounds rewarding," he said sincerely. "What made you want to teach?" Her expression softened, then shifted, a flicker of something guarded. "I had a teacher once who saw me when I felt invisible, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I wanted to be that for someone else." Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken history. Nathan was about to ask more when she leaned forward. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "You don't remember me, do you?" The question hit like a dropped stone. He blinked, confused. "I'm sorry, a broken bar. Have we met?" Claire smiled faintly, but there was sadness behind it. 15 years ago, Westfield Academy. His mind searched back at the school he'd attended for his last 2 years. He remembered friends, debates, parties, being the golden boy. But Claire Morrison, the name didn't ring a bell. "We might have had classes together," she said, "but we weren't in the same circles." "You were Nathan Crawford," and the guy everyone knew. "I was the scholarship kid in the back row, wearing second-hand clothes. My dad was the school janitor." A memory stirred, a faint, uncomfortable, he remembered whispers, jokes, the kind teenagers tell to make themselves feel superior. He didn't start them, but he hadn't stopped them either. "Yeah, broken bar. I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Let me finish," Claire said gently. "When your sister mentioned your name, I almost said number, because back then, you and your friends made my life miserable. You never threw things or called mean names, but you laughed when others did. And once, you did something I've never forgotten." Nathan's throat tightened. It was spring, senior year. There was a big party at Jessica Winter's house. Everyone was there. I wasn't invited. I was working with my dad that night, cleaning offices. Around midnight, I was walking home and passed Jessica's place. You were sitting outside alone. Your girlfriend had just broken up with you. A flicker of memory. That night, the sting of heartbreak, the steps, the noise of the party inside. I tried to walk past unnoticed, she continued, but you looked up. I expected you to sneer, to call your friends. Instead, you asked if I was okay. You told me it wasn't safe walking home so late and offered me $20 for a cab. I refused, said I didn't need your charity. Nathan's stomach turned. He couldn't remember the moment, but he could imagine his younger self, a drunk, emotional, clumsy in his attempt at decency. You said, "Hey, it's not charity, it's just one human being looking out for another." And you looked so sincere that I took it. Her voice softened. I cried the whole way home, because I didn't understand how someone who'd stood by while others hurt me could also be kind. The Cafe Copyright felt suddenly too warm. Nathan's hands trembled around his cup. "Why tell me this?" he asked. Claire looked down at her coffee, then back at him. "Because when your sister told me about you, how you work too much, how you seem lost, I wondered if you remembered that night. And when I saw you sitting here, all polished and alone, I knew you didn't." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, Claire, I really am. I was young and stupid and thought popularity mattered. I should have been better." She nodded. "We all should have. But that moment, that one act of kindness, stayed with me. It reminded me people aren't just one thing. Even those who hurt us can do good. It's part of why I became a teacher, to see the people behind the fall." Section 8. For the first time all evening, Nathan smiled, small, unguarded. "Your sister didn't tell you who I was," she said. "But she told me who you'd become. I wanted to see for myself if that boy from the steps was still in there somewhere." He laughed quietly. "You're not afraid to speak your mind, are you?" "Life's too short to stay invisible," she said simply. They talked for hours about their families, their regrets, their dreams. Nathan admitted he hadn't felt fulfilled in years, that success had become a cage. Claire told him about her father, her students, her tiny apartment filled with books and plants. When the staff started stacking chairs, they realized they'd closed the cafe. Copyright. Outside, the air was cool and fresh. "I almost canceled tonight," Nathan confessed. "Told my sister I was too busy." "I'm glad I didn't." "Me too," Claire said softly. He hesitated. "Would you want to do this again?" "Just us and no setup," she smiled. "On one condition. Next time, no fancy cafe." Copyright. "There's a diner near my school with the best pie in the city. Nothing glamorous, but it's real. Can you handle that?" Nathan grinned. "I think the expensive cafe copyright version of me could use a little real." They went on the second date, then a third, and somewhere around the 10th, Nathan realized he was falling for the woman who had once been invisible to him. She taught him to slow down, to find joy in small things. He helped her believe that her past didn't define her. A year later, he left his high-paying job to start a non-profit offering free legal aid to low-income families. It paid less, but he never felt richer. 2 years after that, he proposed, not in a fancy restaurant, but in that diner, over pie and coffee. "You know what I think about?" he said as he slipped the ring on her trembling hand. That night on the steps, "I wish I could tell that 17-year-old kid that his smallest act of kindness would lead him here to you." "And I'd tell that 17-year-old girl," Claire said through tears, "that one day, she'd be seen, truly seen, by someone who learned how to look." They married 6 months later in a small ceremony filled with laughter and books and love. And years later, when their children asked how they met, they told them it wasn't really a blind date, it was a second chance. A story about kindness, forgiveness, and the ways our smallest choices echo through time. Because sometimes, one human being looking out for another isn't charity, it's love, and a kind that changes everything. 5 years had passed since that night at the diner. The night Nathan slipped a ring onto Claire's hand over pie and coffee, their life together had unfolded quietly, without the grand gestures that used to define Nathan's idea of success. They lived in a modest house on a tree-lined street near Claire's school. Mornings smelled of coffee and toast. Evenings were filled with the sound of pages turning, laughter echoing from the small backyard, and the occasional debate about whose turn it was to do the dishes. Nathan had changed in ways that even he struggled to put into words. He still wore suits sometimes, but they were simpler now, less armor, more habit. His days were spent in an office above a community center, helping families who couldn't afford legal representation. Some days were frustrating, full of bureaucracy and heartbreak, but when a client's relief showed on their face after a case was resolved, it reminded him why he'd chosen this path. Claire, meanwhile, had become something of a legend at her school. Students adored her, parents trusted her. She had a gift for seeing the invisible ones, the quiet kids in the back row who pretended not to care. She saw through their masks the same way someone had once seen through hers. They didn't have everything figured out. There were bills, long days, and moments of exhaustion when life felt heavy. But they faced it together, always finding their way back to the same truth. Kindness had brought them here, and kindness would carry them forward. One crisp autumn afternoon, Nathan arrived early to pick Claire up from school. The courtyard was alive with noise, students laughing, backpacks slung over shoulders, teachers saying their goodbyes. He watched her from the car for a moment. She stood by the gate, talking to a student, a shy-looking boy clutching a worn-out copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. Nathan could see the boy's nervous posture, the way he avoided eye contact. Claire bent slightly to meet his gaze, saying something that made him smile, even laugh. She handed him a fresh notebook from her bag before sending him off. When Claire got into the car, Nathan smiled. "You've got that look again." "What look?" "The one you get when you've changed someone's day." She rolled her eyes, but her cheeks colored slightly. "If he leaves today feeling like someone believes in him, That's enough. That's what you always say, Nathan teased. You realize you're raising an army of confident teenagers who'll probably take over the world one day, right? She laughed. Good. Someone should. That night, they stopped by the diner. The waitress, Nora, still remembered their order by heart. 2 coffees, 1 slice of apple pie, 1 of cherry. They sat by the window where Nathan had proposed years ago. How's work? Claire asked, stirring her coffee. Long week, he said, leaning back. We won a case for a single mother trying to keep her apartment, but there's another one, a teenager caught in a custody battle. Reminds me of some of your students. Do you ever miss it? She asked after a pause. The big firm, the suits, the money, the comfort? He thought for a moment, then smiled. Sometimes I miss the simplicity of it. You know, follow the rules, win the case, cash the check, but not the emptiness. Back then, I had everything except purpose. Now a broken bar, I have less, but it means more. Claire reached across the table and took his hand. That's the thing about purpose. It doesn't fill your pockets, but it fills your days. He squeezed her hand gently. You always know what to say. Comes with the teacher discount, she joked. They shared a quiet laugh, and for a long moment, just watched the world outside at the hum of cars, people walking, the glow of neon signs reflecting on rain-slicked pavement. As they left the diner, a woman in her 30s approached them hesitantly. Excuse me, she said, smiling at Claire. You're Mrs. Crawford, right? You taught me senior English 15 years ago. Claire blinked in surprise. Emily Grant? The woman grinned. You remembered. I just wanted to say thank you. You told me once I had a writer's voice worth hearing. I'm publishing my first book next spring. Claire's eyes widened, and she laughed, delighted. Emily, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. As Emily left, Nathan slipped his arm around Claire's shoulders. You see? He murmured. You keep changing people's lives. She leaned into him. We both do, just in different ways. Years later, long after the diner had changed owners and their children were grown, Nathan and Claire would still return to that same spot. Two older, slower versions of themselves, still holding hands, still teasing each other. And every now and then, Nathan would look across the table and think of that night long ago, a blind date that wasn't blind at all. A reminder that the smallest kindness can ripple through years, shaping lives in ways we never imagine. Because, as Claire once told him, the truest kind of love isn't built on grand gestures or perfect timing. It's built on 2 people choosing, again and again, to really see each other. And in that simple act of being seen, of being known, they found everything that mattered.